Informal together. The city manager, Mr. Duhaney, along with Mr. Jones and Ms. Henley are, finishing up a meeting, and Ms. Wilson and Mr. Holcomb are going to be out today. But once again, we're looking forward to a robust discussion. And at this point, if we can engage Deborah Bryan, our voice and ears in Richmond.
So Mayor, Miss Bryan does not have a report for us today, and so if possible, we'll jump to the next item, which means I'm going to head right there.
Okay, you got it. So you get to switch seats right from the get-go.
That's right. Well,
Lost in
like I
here
say,
somewhere.
it's the boss's chair. I was just keeping it warm for a second.
And you did it very well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon again, Mayor. Good afternoon, Council. And so what we have is a request for public-private partnership and development to begin densification of the Pembroke Mall. I'll jump forward one slide here, and I'll stop for a moment while you all in the public are able to read the disclosures that are attached to this file. Moving on, you can see that our request here is for the city to cost participate in 2 public parking garages as part of a proposed master development for the Pembroke Mall. Here's a quick look at the footprint of the mall and what the developer is calling a transition from mall to mixed-use community. Here's a closer look at the parcels that would be involved in this plan. And so you can see on the back, and I will tell you, jumping forward to the next slide, we're talking about 3 phases of a potential 5 at this that are contemplated at this point. But it's important to note your action here is only related to the 3. And I'll call your attention to at the very top there the senior living, the retail parcel on what would be on the east side of the parcel, as well as the hotel on the bottom, and then the multifamily. Phase 1, $49 million contemplated cost for a privately financed 7-story, 153-unit senior housing facility. We would anticipate that this would be surface parked using the existing field and that it would be located, this is what we showed you just a moment ago, at the very north end of the site. I should stop at this point and say before I go on that you all may have seen some of the renderings for this project already. Our planning department's been working with the applicant on this to ensure that the form of development does not overly densify and overpower the single-family owner-occupied residences across the street. So you can see 2 stories there against the street, and then the tower behind. And so the developer has been has partnered with our planning team in ensuring that those single-family homes are protected. Phase 2, multifamily, and this is where we would see the first garage come in potentially. $69 million, 5 stories, 324 market rate multifamily units, over 2 levels of parking, and there would be some ground floor retail to potentially come in. This is 8 stories total, and this is located, as you going back to that last to the map that we showed you at the very beginning, located right in the center of the mall. Phase 3, a hotel on Virginia Beach Boulevard, anticipated value of $43 million, 209 rooms, give or take, over a 3-story garage, and as we mentioned, this is on the boulevard, located on the former SunTrust site. Boss, how you doing? Here you can see the 3 parcels with some proposed massings, and with the garages in phases 2 and 3. There are subsequent phases that are contemplated in the future, but it's important to note that these phases are not for our consideration at this point, and nothing that we are doing related to these first three phases would obligate us to future phases. So we've added a quick slide just to show that everything that we are doing here is consistent with the Pembroke SGA plan as it is currently adopted. So a quick summary of what we're looking at. We're looking at total private sector investment of approximately $161.5 million through three phases. The requested public investment would be $24 million. So what is that? That's $30,000 per space. The reason that we feel comfortable bringing this number forward is that's a number that was recently vetted through the Atlantic Park project, and that's what's contemplated in your development agreement there. So here we have parking capped at $30,000 per space in the two garages. So the request to consider is that again Pembroke would ask us to cost participate in the two public parking garages, looking at the footprint here to facilitate redevelopment. Now, to talk about fiscal impact quickly. So the parking garages, you can see we're contemplating just over 800 spaces at $30,000 per, approximately $24 million that would be bond financed by the city. Revenue from the project would be anticipated to begin in fiscal year 2024. Something that we've done different on this project, we wanted to bring you the most conservative look that we could as it relates to this project. And so we have built our pro forma exclusively on the real estate tax. So it's important to note we're not talking about displaced sales tax revenue. We're not talking about any of our other use taxes. This is our deal here is basically, or not basically, it is built on real estate tax that comes to the general fund. To ensure that those revenues would remain with the general fund, we would request a dedication of real estate revenues equivalent to the revenue generated, and that would need basically that all of that would need to occur within the general fund. Basically, what we're just saying is we want to take all the sources of funds that come in from real estate that they stay with the general fund and that they be used to service the debt associated with the project. Now, as I mentioned, our exposure is capped at $30,000 per space for the contribution to the parking garages. Our development partner, should you choose to go forward, contemplates that parking would cost in excess of $30,000 per space. One of the things that they have requested is that they be able to tie on a special service district. What is it? And so, just for the public, what does that mean? They are asking that basically that we levy taxes appropriate on them and only them to satisfy the additional funds that are needed to service the debt on the garages. And so debt service for design and the developer construction gap is anticipated to be $5,000 per space, or $5.5 million. We anticipate that garage maintenance, which would also be the ongoing maintenance for the public garages, would also be in the SSD at $275 per space, and that would require about 45 cents. To give you some close context, currently that is about the value of the town center SSD. It is used for similar but not exactly the same purposes. Here's a quick summary of the fiscal impact just so that you can see it. We anticipate that 20-year cumulative revenue based on a very conservative set of projections would be just less than $41 million. We anticipate that our cumulative expenses on a fairly aggressive expense calculation would be just shy of $32 million. That's estimated net revenues over 20 years of just shy of $9 million, and where we always like to account for the time value of money so that you know what the value of that is in the present. We're looking at a net present value of about $3.6 million over the 20 years of this project. And again, I'll reiterate that is using only the real estate taxes. That is not using any of the hotel motel tax, sales tax, the other taxes that would be generated on site. We've also, important to know, we are not calculating any induced spending by the additional residences that are there. That was important for us because, one, I don't want to say that it's a squishy calculation, but what I would say is it's It's something that we can project to a reasonable, sort of assumption, but is not something that we can ever meaningfully predict until the project is up and stabilized. So we've just left all that out, and that's very different from other deals that we've showed you in the past. We have shown you we have shown you deals that would make assumptions on what all of that is. This is nothing more than the real estate tax, which is basically what we're taking the developer's word on the construction value, calculating real estate tax, and using that to fund the public participation. With that, I'm happy to take questions.
Any questions? Mr. Moss?
Would it be possible, both for the council and for the public, that over that 20-year period of the financing of the debt, that on the top line we could see the real estate base that's based on,
Yes, sir.
and then you could see the revenue being collected at a presumed tax rate and a presumed growth rate? Because somewhere in that phrase, before the 20th year, there's actually net revenue being generated to the general fund before the 20th year, and I think that would be good for people. And I realize there's some assumptions, but the same assumptions we make with our budget and when we do other debt, so it's not an uncharacteristic assumption to make. So I think that would be good for people to see. And I was over in Mr. Branch's territory last night. I was speaking in my future district, but speaking to a civic league that's in Mr. Branch's future district, or the district he's now in, Cape Henry Story by the Sea, and they were asking about this project. And I know there's been a lot of public feedback. And one of my responses to my colleagues that I gave to the audience was, I know they don't want high density in B4 on Shore Drive. We didn't want B4 in Thalia, but those get harder and harder to rationally explain why we're not doing it. And the same reason why I didn't support the car dealership was because the SGA, even though I didn't vote for those things, they are the policy, didn't match. Well, here the policy matches.
Yes, sir.
But I have said from the beginning, and maybe when we're looking at the comp plan, the public might want to have a different view. These SGA aspirations are not achievable with the pricing power that our projects need to be built.
Yes.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yes, sir.
So, but we haven't changed the policy.
That's right.
And so, in this particular case, it's not a TIF, thank goodness. I think
That's right.
that's not where we want to go in the future. We retire this as soon as possible, and we're not dedicating anything other than real estate. So while I have not been enthused still about subsidies, but it is our policy, Mr. Mayor, that's what it currently is, and this is the only way we can make that work. So what I'm hoping that my
Yes.
colleagues will see in my support for this project, that in places where these types of densification don't make sense, like at Thalia on Shore Drive, that we'll be equally judicious and equally consistent in not advancing high-density projects where they aren't compatible with the neighborhood. I also would like someone to talk about, not today, but when you can competently do that, is I do think there's a net reduction in traffic, even though the B2 generation wasn't happening there because it's just
Yes,
not a
sir.
B2 market. But I do think on the table itself, I think this has less traffic than the B2 zoning on the property. It would be nice for someone just
I'll look at that.
to be able to articulate that, because I know that's a concern of the neighborhood,
Yes.
as well as better enforcement of that, people not bypassing that little turn thing there
Yes,
at Genie and Constitution.
Yes.
But that'll be an issue. But I do thank you for the presentation, and I think we can get that little bit of stuff that certainly will help the public see what we're trying to achieve here. But anyway, that was just wanted to share with you my thoughts and how I spoke with the Civic League the other evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Anybody else? Ms. Hanley?
I think you answered it, but I think it needs to be repeated and emphasized. The SSD, the proposed SSD,
Yes, ma'am.
would only affect this property owner.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. In fact, there are some parcels in the mall that this will not pertain to. We have been very precise in the assessment of the SSD to again, to maintain the conservative principles that you all have charged us with bringing forward on this deal. And I'll just also add to that, to Councilmember Moss's point from just now, this is something, the revenue that we are tying on for, regarding the real estate tax, you're correct, Councilmember, it is only for the life of this debt. When the debt expires, the general fund benefits going from that point on.
Okay, anyone else? I think Mr. Moss makes a salient point about keeping the public advised about, what's going on about the fiscal benefit of this. And I think one of the reasons, that's a good idea, as we're looking at running out of space and land, and we have some of these for lack of better terms, underperforming strip malls now, we got to think outside the box and think about repurposing.
Yes, sir.
And, this kind of sets a template, but once again, as we, I can think of a couple places, where this might be appropriate, to put, maybe some businesses along with the stores. The disruptive technologies have caused a lot of places to close.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of vacancies that are out there now. So if we think outside the box and we could do it effectively and efficiently, I think we can create a win-win situation.
Thank you, Mayor. That's, and we agree. And so with that said, with your permission and with council's permission, of course, we'd like to bring this back to you. I mean, if it's your will, we would ask for permission to bring this back for, I guess, to formalize a decision one way or the other for a public hearing, and then potentially your vote at a future meeting.
Okay, Mr. Tower?
I was just going to add, in furtherance of the comments that have already been made, the newspaper article that Ms. Parker wrote and the headline picked up on the same of city foots the bill for the parking. In a way, I understand why you write a headline that way in a lead paragraph, but I think it is important, and so I'll say for perhaps the third or fourth time today, but clearly this is an investment by the city. We expect a return on this investment. It is
Yes.
not simply underwriting the costs of a developer purely to aid the developer because we think he's a good guy or it's going to be a good-looking project. This is an investment by the city that we expect a return on, and we made a fairly good study of that before
Yes.
even getting it to this point. So I just wanted to make that point, given the publicity, the use of those words of footing the bill.
Yes.
It's not
But-
quite the same thing in my mind anyway as an investment.
Well, and Councilmember, thank you for that. I should have mentioned this earlier. This is a 100% but-for deal. And so that's a common phrase in our business, but what does that mean to the public?
To the public. Right?
Yeah, and so what we can tell you is this project would not happen but for our investment. And it is exactly that. But also, it's important to note, the 100% of our exposure is contingent on their performance. And so the developer the developer will be building our garages as they are building their structures. And so the revenue, the new tax revenue from this development will pay for our garages. So the public is not out the money. And that's a very important part of this deal. And also, going back to Councilmember Moss's point, it's also so important to note that as soon as this debt pays off, the general fund will benefit in perpetuity from this new investment in our community. And so we're actually very excited about this project. We think it's a very conservative and a very safe deal for the public.
I do too. I do as well. Thank you.
Mr. Branch?
Well, I was going to use the but-for analogy, but you brought it up, and I'm glad you did. But this project does fit into the strategic plan that we have and comprehensive plan.
Yes, sir.
And also continues the town center vision that was started a long time ago. And we talk about redevelopment all the time and how
Yes.
we're going to do it. So this is one example of how we can accomplish this type of redevelopment. So I think your question was you'd like to bring this back in a timely fashion for some firm direction from the council, and I certainly would advocate that, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms.
I
Hanley?
just thought of another question.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I know the town center SSD pays the cost of operating the parking garages there so that there can be no charge.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the plan here too, that there will be no charge?
Yes, ma'am. That $275 per space ongoing expense for maintenance, that is the developer's contribution to ensure that this is consistent with the model that exists at Town Center today.
So there won't be any charge to park in those garages?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
John?
That would put the public hearing on March 15th, and as soon as we could vote, because that's what we do, intervening, because the public doesn't
That's right, yes,
participate
sir.
at workshops.
Of course, yes, sir.
And would be the 15th of March, which means the first Tuesday in April would be the soonest this could be on the agenda.
If that is the will of the body, yes,
I'm
sir.
just opening it up to the mayor to make a suggestion, but I'm okay with that, but I would defer to my colleagues.
Okay, anyone else? And, you know, Mr. Adams, a lot of senior housing here.
Oh, yes, sir.
And I think one of the tangible benefits that you got to think about, you know, kind of an objective of, you know, the new wave of looking at things are contained communities.
Yes, sir.
And the location of this, first of all, there is a desperate need, you know, especially for people in my baby boom, you know, being a child of the 50s. There is a tremendous amount of people moving into the age of necessity due to age, and being located somewhere where they could literally walk to shop and walk to restaurants and walk to, you know, stores and everything. You know, there's some merit to a contained community that is really, you know, good. So at this point, is everybody okay with giving a direction? Let's go forward and get to yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Okay? All right. Do we have Debbie?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Deborah is held up at committee advocating on one of the policies you asked us to take a position on, so she won't be able to probably join us today, so I'd like to move to the next
Okay.
presentation.
Not a problem, and we'll just we'll get her next time.
All right.
Okay, smart scale update. Welcome.
Thank you. Afternoon, everyone. My name is Katie Shannon, and I'm with Public Works Engineering. I manage the engineering support group. One of our main duties is grant applications. So I'm here to talk to you about Smart Scale Round 5 candidate projects. Smart Scale is our primary transportation grant here in Virginia, and it stands for System for Management and Allocation of Resources for Transportation. So today we're going to look at some lessons learned from rounds 1 through 4, and then also our candidate projects and funding strategy for round 5. Okay. So Smart Scale essentially evaluates potential transportation factors based on these 6 key factors that you see here today. As you can see, they're all weighted. So congestion is 45% of the Group A, which is the Hampton Roads area. So any project that you see us recommending is going to have a heavy congestion component to it. We've got 20% land use, 15% for accessibility, 10% for environmental quality, and 5% for safety and economic development. This is the first year that resiliency is also being considered. So Virginia Beach last year worked on trying to get resiliency added as a key metric for Smart Scale. They didn't go as far as adding it as a metric, but they did put it into the language so that it's at least a consideration. We continue to work with the General Assembly to see if we can try to get that added, because obviously it would be a big benefit for Virginia Beach. Takeaways from previous rounds. We have been very successful in rounds 1 through 4. We've gotten 10 projects awarded at a cost of $106 million. We've done well because we try to pick the projects that coordinate with the grant program. So rounds 1 and 2 were the first 2 rounds, and we had lots of large, high-priority projects. So we had the Laskin projects were funded through that, Indian River. So we're talking about widening projects in the, $20+ million. Rounds 3 through 4 a different trend started to emerge, where we were looking at smaller projects, about less than $10 million, and a lot of innovative designs. So round 3, we only got 1 project, which was Oceana General Booth Boulevard, an innovative design to that intersection. Last round, we got a super street on Holland Road and a couple of innovative intersection designs. So we really do try to follow the trends and stay ahead of it. The proposals for round 5, there's about $800 million to $1.2 billion available. We're still waiting on a final number. We do know that the funding available, the typical allocations is increased by about $250 million from the IIJA. So that should be a help for the state. Also, the project is federalized, and the funding is FY '26 and '27, which is 2 years increase from what it typically is. So I would say it's about mid to outer year funding. And then lastly, small projects and innovative designs are still looking to be what scores well. So we began the preparation for Smart Scale Round 5 in the summer of last year. We assembled the members of the city's transportation committee to discuss possible candidate projects. We talked to VDOT, we got their guidance, we got an AE on board to help with our analysis. Essentially, we did a high-level survey of projects using the designated grant metrics. About over 20 projects were looked at, and we narrowed that down to 11 candidate projects. We took great care to look at different size projects, different types of improvements, and really making sure that we were looking holistically at the entire city instead of just certain areas. 11 projects were screened for eligibility and mock scored, and these are the 11 projects in front of you. And then we narrowed that down with our scoring to 7 projects that were chosen as strong candidates. And then there's 2 in that group that we need a little bit more direction from council because they just have some interesting components to it. This is a map of where you can see the projects all were. The red dots are the projects that were screened out. The blue stars are recommended applications, and the green lines are the city council boundaries, and these are the new boundaries. So you can see we really did try to hit every section. So now I'm going to talk to you about the 7 candidate projects that we're recommending. The first one is Clearfield Avenue. This is we anticipate that the Greenwich Road overpass opening is going to significantly increase the congestion on Clearfield Avenue between Cleveland and Virginia Beach Boulevard. This is essentially a parallel road to Witch Duck Road. So given the anticipation of the increase in traffic, we are suggesting a installation of a continuous left turn lane. So this will essentially get the turning vehicles out of the through lane because there's a lot of development in that area, a lot of left turning vehicles, and help with congestion. I will say of note, there is substantial site acquisition required with this project because it is a very tight right-of-way right there, and we're anticipating $16.8 million total project cost. The next project I want to talk to you about is Dam Neck Road. We're proposing widening Dam Neck from Holland to Drake's Mile. So this is the number 12th most congested roadway segment in the city right now with a level of service of F. So we grade all of our roads with A through F, with F being the worst, similar to grading in school. So obviously we have high congestion in this area. We're proposing widening this road from 4 lanes to 6 lanes and connects to the merge lanes west of Holland Road and the Dam Neck intersection. There is undeveloped property to the east further down Dam Neck Road, so that will really help with our economic development component. There's no site acquisition required with this project, so that really decreases our cost and also our risk associated with it, and also improves access to Oceana, which is obviously a huge benefit. We're estimating this project will cost $17.6 million. The next project is First Colonial Road, and this is one of those projects that I mentioned that we want to hopefully a little bit more direction from. So this is widening First Colonial Road from Laurel Lane Republic Road to Old Donation Parkway. So this is the 15th most congested roadway segment, which is also a level service of F. But this is kind of a special project, or a special congestion. We call it latent demand, which essentially means that the congestion is more severe than the ranking suggests. So you've heard, obviously, technical traffic engineers and stuff talk about peak hours in the morning and the afternoon. This road kind of never has peak hours because it's always congested. It's also a medical corridor, so there's significant ambulance traffic and stuff like that in the area. That will it'll improve access to the critical medical corridor. The issue with this project is that it has a very high total project cost. It's about $52.9 million. So for this to be a viable project, we are recommending a large local commitment, which that might not be something that we feel necessary right now. So that's why I just kind of bring this project out for maybe some discussion afterwards. But it's definitely a much needed project that needs to be widened at some point. This next project is the other one that I mentioned that we need a little bit more discussion on. It's the General Booth Dam Neck Road intersection. So the intersection is what is congested, but what we're proposing is a quadrant roadway. So you can kind of see that there. So a quadrant roadway essentially gets the traffic off the intersection by providing an alternative route or a cut through. I say quadrant-like because if it's a true quadrant roadway, you have to remove all left turns. And because there's substantial development at the General Booth Dam Neck intersection, we're not going to limit all left turns. So it's quadrant-like. It is an innovative intersection, so that will help with our roadway or with our scoring. It's the number 2 most congested intersection right now. So it has significant issues. Sorry. So it has a lot of base traffic going to Dam Neck, and the improvements are part of the city's master plan. The hiccup with this project is that we don't own the land right now. It is in the master transportation project, and our cost, which we estimated at $11.3 million, does include the cost to acquire the property, but right now it is not our property, and we would have to work with the developer. But it's an excellent project. And I know that there are other issues since we don't own the property, so that's another one we wanted to bring up for discussion. The next project is the South Independence Boulevard Pleasure House Road intersection. So this is the number 4 most congested intersection in the city. And we are proposing a green T intersection, which is another type of innovative intersection. Essentially, it limits the phases of the intersections and provides more green time. So it's addressing the left turning congestion from Pleasure House to South Independence. It includes medium breaks north of the intersection to accommodate U-turns, because we will be, at the CVS and the rallies, will be removing their left turns, so they'll only have right in and right out access. So this project is $6.4 million. It does not include site acquisition because we own all the property. However, we have put in funding for what we call access damages, because we are limiting or damaging the current access that the CVS and the rallies include. So we are proposing funding to make them whole. So this obviously has some potential to be not a great project with the CVS. But as a whole, it's a low-cost project for what you'll get from it. It's only $6.4 million. The next project is the Indian River Road intersections. So we're proposing modification to 2 intersections between Centerville and Kempsville Road. This corridor right now is the number 3 most congested roadway segment, which is a level of service of F again, and it's got the number 5 and 6 most congested intersections. So we are proposing some slight modification. To Indian River, Kemps River, we would just small signal modifications with the phasing and the timing of the intersection. And then at Indian River and Tompkins, we're proposing removing the traffic signal and converting it to a modified R cut to restrict turning movements again. The benefit of this project, that it'll ease congestion all the way from Kempsville through the 64 intersection. You do have that Centerville area that is getting improved with the Centerville Turnpike Phase 2 project. So this is a very cost-effective at only $2.8 million. Our last project today is the Providence Road project. So this is from Kempsville Road to Church Hill Drive. It's the number 2 most congested roadway section at a level of service of F. And it has frequent left turns along this heavily residential corridor. There's a lot of houses that face Providence Road in this area. So we are proposing a continuous left turn lane to remove the left turning vehicles from the travel lane, which will help both safety and congestion. This is at $16.7 million project. As far as our funding strategy goes, I think it's important to understand how SmartScale scores all the projects. They give a technical score, and then they divide it by your funding request, not your total project cost, but your SmartScale request. So the more funding that you can leverage, the higher your score will be, and the more opportunity you would have to get funding. So our strategy here was if you have a total project cost less than $5 million, don't even put any local funding on it. It really wouldn't adjust your score at all. Just submit the entire total project cost as your smart scale request. If your total project cost is between 5 million and 10 million, our goal is to get our smart scale request down below $5 million. So if it's a $7 million project, we would say let's commit $2 million to get it below 5. If it's a $15 to $20 million project, we're saying, again, let's get it in the $10 to $12 million range, and whatever we need to commit to get it into that $10 to $12 million range. Now, First Colonial obviously is the one that kind of sticks out there with the highest project cost, and it's really only viable with a large commitment. I wouldn't suggest committing anything less than 50% of the funding there. It's just really not going to get funded with that large amount. And we're recommending a total local funding commitment of $47 million, which is 38% of the total project cost, but that's if all 7 projects are awarded. If you remove First Colonial from that, you have it's a $21 million local commitment, which is 29% of the projects. But in reverse, we stand to receive $77 million in smart scale funding, or $50 million if we exclude the First Colonial project. Again, I will say this is mid to outer year funding, so it's not it's not needed immediately, which kind of helps a bit with the local commitment, but it's still obviously a great deal of money. And then lastly, just the schedule moving forward. We have 1 month to work on our pre-applications, which includes the lion's share of the application before the pre-app closes. Once the pre-application period closes on April 1st, we can no longer submit an application for round 5. So this next month is critical in making our decision and moving forward. VDOT will then vet the projects in April and May, and then they'll open it back up in June for us to submit the final application, which is due in August 1st. We will come back to City Council in the June-July timeframe to get a resolution of support for the projects, but that's once our cost estimates are refined and we have a more detailed estimate and feel more comfortable with the cost that we want to present and that we're committing local funds to. And then awards are announced in January of 2023, and they'll be included in the FY24 CIP. So with that, I'll take any questions or discussion.
Any questions? Okay, Ms. Henley, and then Mr. Moss, and then Mr. Rouse.
Just to help the recall, could y'all compile for us the awards that we have gotten in the first four
First 4 rounds, sure.
Rounds, so that we don't lose sight of that? I think there's been some adjustment lately, and maybe that's why Elbow Road got changed. But anyway, that would be helpful. You're talking about the most congested intersections and so forth. What's number 1?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think, Rick, maybe? Yeah, not off the top.
Rick doesn't even know.
It might be, it's a town center, right? Isn't it South Independence?
I thought it was Dam Neck, but you're saying
I
that's
thought
number
Indian
2.
River and Kensville just.
It was, well, I think it was, but we've improved that one. But I think it might be town center. Yeah, we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
I had several questions. First, everybody else has the same game theory strategy that you just, obviously it's a transparent process. So there isn't really any true gaming of the system. But in that process, is it they just do it and give us the results, or is there a briefing of the projects, or does the board that look at that ever come back and say, because in the end, we know this is going to get allocated across the state on some geographic equity basis.
Yeah.
So we know that for certain. So we know really that we're competing on some geographic allocation of resources. So
That's a good question. So I will say VDOT breaks the money up into 2 buckets. There's the district grants. So every VDOT district gets a certain amount of money. So we're in the Hampton Roads district. So that's kind of how they equally distribute it. And then they have another pocket of money called the high priority projects. So that's any high priority, like the Laskin Road projects were funded with the high priority pot of money, where Indian River was funded with the district grants. So there's kind of 2 ways depending on the status of the project. And then VDOT, in January of 2023, when they make the awards, they do a presentation to the Commonwealth Transportation Board. And that's how they,
Well, it gets back, so in our point, even when we can do our own rough approximation scoring of these projects, and I suspect in some cases it might be, the numerical difference is probably small.
very small.
Therefore, there's probably some choice if people said, hey, and I know how these things work, I've been in these kind of okay, we've got this, you can get your number one project, we can, so, well, when will that discussion take place? Well, we've done our refinement, we've done our thing, and now we're saying we really do have a rank order preference,
Yep.
About these projects. When push comes to shove, we'll have the council will have that discussion on that.
So that will be in January, and that will be, once the awards are done, VDOT again talks to the CTB.
I can't be in January.
Help you on this one, Katie, if you don't mind. I think what you're asking, Councilman, is do we have the ability to rank which of these is our priority? And the answer is no.
Okay, that's what I was asking, that specific question. That is very good. That's what I was asking.
Can I just comment on that for a second?
Certainly.
It's previously been no. They actually just changed it. This year will be the first year that we can rank it, but we don't know how much that will weigh in on anything.
Okay, I was just asking that question because I thought it was important. And secondly, since this is money that even though we say, oh, we don't have to have it till later, once you program it, you've got to have it. So how are we doing the CIP that comes forward to us? Because that's a 6-year document. So even if these things are in 24 and 25, we really still have to make programmatic choices because we don't have all this additional new money and additional new debt. So are we really having to, during the course, and I'm just asking, not to have the answer today, but during the CIP, we really are making these decisions before that June gate? Because we're having to show those program dollars, and if we do these projects and we change them, then something that was in the CIP comes out.
So,
Because our local match is constrained.
Sure, absolutely. In the fiscal year 23 CIP, we will not project any of these projects because they're so far out, and we have no idea if any of them will get funded. In the fiscal year 24 CIP, we will have the results. We'll know the results in January. So we would include any that were awarded, we would include it in the fiscal year 24 CIP, even though it's only 2 years in advance. Now, if council determines that at that time, we've had to reevaluate, the economy's changed, or we have a reprioritization, none of this money becomes available to us until we sign a contract with VDOT. So if we say next year they give us an award for First Colonial, and we say, hey, we don't know if we're going to have $26 million to match it, at that point, we could go back at that point and say, hey, we're not comfortable doing that.
Well, my concern always is the public sees one thing and builds an expectation despite all the fine qualifiers. That's what I have found. They see this and they think, oh, if we get this, we get that money. So the state says, yep, you're going to get this, but the only way I can come up with my local match under the revenue circumstance that we may face is to defund something that someone already has an expectation to get. So we really are, we don't talk about the qualifiers as much as we do about the aspiration. And I'm just wanting to make sure the people that are watching realize that there is no real programmatic council commitment behind that money, and to make that good may require defunding something we have already voted on and committed on in several budget cycles in that part of the CIP. I just want to make sure everybody up here understands that absent some unprecedented economic growth and incomes, there isn't that $47 million. That's all I want to make sure that the public knows.
And I would take that one step further, understanding that the state's share is programmed based upon their expectations of future revenues. And it has happened, not through the Smart Scale program, but through other funding programs where they've come back and said, hey, our revenues didn't match our expectations. We're going to shift your funding around. And so that is a possibility, and I believe that likewise we have the ability to do some of that as well. So I do understand your comment. I just want to let you know that it's not just our part.
Oh, I know. I thought you did great work here. I'm just trying to make sure that there's a level understanding that this is an aspirational expectation behind which there is no dollar commitment by any party.
Agreed.
All right.
I will say too, when we submit our FY24 CIP next year, when we submit our list of above target requests for roadways, we will put in there, we have 7 pending, or however many we submit. We have X number of pending applications that do require a local commitment of this. So we kind of try to keep that at the forefront for a budget office and the MLT. We also did meet with the budget office to let them know, hey, this is the year the funding would be required. Are these out of line at all? And the feedback we received was, we can manage that. First Colonial would be a stretch because it is the largest, bulk of funding, but that it didn't seem out of line is what we got. Again, no one knows what, next the future brings.
Anyway, I appreciate your fine work and thank you for your answers.
Okay, Mr. Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, when we look at considering these roadway projects, and especially First Colonial and General Booth, and looking at in detail all the roadways, where is it where we are incorporating bike lanes and other multi-modes of transportation? As we see, electrical vehicles are going to be the norm in the near future, and as well as electrical vehicles comes electric bikes, and many of our our residents and community, getting offshore energy, wind energy coming here very soon. Are we building that into this vision? And if so, is that being incorporated, and will that allow us to get certain grants from the state for being more,
Bike-friendly.
bike-friendly and green energy type friendly approach?
That's a great question. We actually use the city's bikeways and trails master plan to ensure that wherever a trail or a bikeway is included, if we have a roadway associated with it, we add that to the roadway cross-section. So all of the road widenings include either like outside lanes or wide outside lanes for cycling, or a large sidewalk in there, 5 to 8 feet. And there is extra points associated with that. So when we're filling out the application, there's comments of, are you adding bike lanes? Do you have pedestrian improvements? So anywhere where we can benefit with ADA accessibility, ped improvements at intersections, bike lanes, anything like that, we get extra points. So not only is it a benefit for our citizens to put it in, but it makes for a stronger application as well.
Sure. When I think about First Colonial Road, I went to high school at First Colonial Road as some of our other council members here. I rode my bike many of times down First Colonial Road, and the sidewalks aren't necessarily wide enough, and as you know, is jam-packed with traffic. So I would like to see in the future CIP projects as well, and what this roadway is incorporating bike lanes into when we're talking about whether or not expanding from 4 to 6 or expanding the roadway or widening it, that we also include bike lanes, because I don't think that road goes across a bike trail or a roadway. So.
Yeah, I think it's 5 feet sidewalk, 5-foot sidewalk.
If you look on the left, it's an 8-foot sidewalk to incorporate a multi-use trail for just that purpose.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Henley.
Well, I think a number of years ago, we actually voted and passed a resolution that any new roadway projects would have bike lanes on them. So I think we're doing that. But I've noticed something, and if it's somewhere else in the city, I just haven't noticed it. But now the Princess Anne 7 roadway is being striped. Mm-hmm. And I had noticed it when they were starting to stripe the overlay work that was done on Princess Anne from the Sandbridge intersection to Asheville Park. The bike lane is in between the outer drive lane and the turn lane.
Yes, ma'am.
That looks mighty dangerous to me. I mean, you've got people riding on bikes, and then somebody from this lane has got to get over to that turn lane in front of the bike. Have we got that anywhere else? This seems to be something new, and it looks to me to be dangerous.
No, ma'am, actually, that's the correct movement. And the reason it's the correct movement is because the bicycle is moving with the lane of traffic. If the bicycle is going to turn into and I know exactly the area that you're talking about, because when you sent a letter to the city manager, I went out and reviewed it to make sure it was correct. If the bike is going to turn into the shopping center, then it follows the turn lane into the shopping center. But if the bike is proceeding straight, you wouldn't want a conflict point where the bike followed the turn lane and then the car came around it and hit it at the collision point where it's pulling in there. So the bicycle stays in the through lane, which is striped as a through lane. Cars have to go across the bicycle lane to make a right turn, but it's striped with the little skips to let the driver know that they're going across a bicycle lane. It is the correct means to handle it.
There's another one on Dam Neck as well, when you get to Dam Neck.
Scary to me.
I believe in London Bridge. I've rode that many of times, and always looking over my left shoulder, making sure cars making that right turn don't go across me.
Absolutely. Any time that you have a vehicle that's going across the bicycle facilities, it's a conflict point. But the correct movement for bicycles that are staying straight is to stay adjacent to the through lane, and that is striped correctly.
Okay, anyone else? Ms. Wooten?
Good afternoon, and thank you for your presentation. I was listening about the information for Centerville, District 7, and I don't know, I'm kind of looking at the details, and what you're saying sounds like it will be good, certainly to improve that section of the road. But I do also kind of reminisce about what the past project that we've done.
Indian River, Kempsville.
And so I just want to make sure, because it was pretty controversial. And so I don't know the level of public engagement for this particular project, but I'd like to see some public engagement there just to make sure people are aware of what's going to happen, to get their feedback, because in the last project that we did, it's pretty a big undertaking, a great overhaul, and to this day, we still get feedback about it. And so I just want to make sure we do, I'm going to say, I don't want to say a deep level of engagement, but we do really need to do a substantial amount for that particular project if we do move forward.
Okay.
And that would just be my concern, just to make sure we get as much feedback as we can.
Yeah, and I know the innovative intersections are, can be sometimes confusing for the general public and traveling. I do know Indian River, Kempsville, our traffic engineer and our transportation division manager are here today. We did get a lot of negative feedback when they first opened, but by and large, I think now that it's open and people kind of understand it, and we did a lot of public engagement, a successful project. And it certainly was cost effective. I want to say it was a $23 million project, and that was our most congested intersection in the city. And, you know, when I travel through it now, no matter the day or time, I don't have any issues. So this would be, you know, a similar step, you know, not to the extent that was. This really is a very cost-effective project, $2.8 million, a lot of bang for the buck. But I do understand what you're saying, especially when you're taking away a signal. We can look to see what we can do as far as the public engagement for that. You know, certainly once it's a project, we bring in all the citizens, but with it just being a grant, like this is kind of our public engagement right now.
And so I would just follow up to say, and I certainly learned from that previous project. And though I think the feedback from that project is probably, I don't know, I won't say 50-50, but some people just don't go.
Yeah.
They just don't travel there because they don't like it, unfortunately. And so I've learned from that, and so I just want to make sure that we're improving our approach.
Yep.
To get that civic engagement and to get that feedback from the residents before we move forward, or when and if we do move forward with it. So I've learned from that project. So I want to take my lessons and share them and modify what we did before.
Yeah, no, it's a good comment, and because, you know, in my opinion, innovative intersections like that are here to stay. The money available for this type of stuff, especially in a climate where we have a lot of stormwater, right, is dwindling. And if we had done that Indian River Kempsville intersection as a traditional intersection, we would have had to acquire all four corners of that intersection. It would have been like a $50+ million project. So in order to us to stay cost effective, we do need to continue with these innovative intersections and innovative designs. But to your point, I agree, we need to engage the public more and make sure our education and they're fully on board with what's going to happen.
Thank you.
Of course.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the
Mr.
future.
Mayor.
Oh,
Katie, did you get the direction?
So, thank you. As far as the two projects, First Colonial and General Booth Dam Neck, is council okay with us
Are we
moving?
okay with moving forward with that?
Only on the condition I have to understand future date about the revenue. That can't, I'm not willing to make that amount of, I'm not willing to commit to that amount of churn to unfund something to make that happen.
Yeah, with the understanding that this is absolutely 100% aspirational.
I understand.
And that none of this ties council hands. Before we put the document out publicly, we want to make sure that council is okay with it being, okay.
I will say in the first 4 rounds of Smart Scale, we've never gotten all the projects we've submitted. So if that eases some concerns, and, again, if we don't submit a pre-application, then we can't submit it all. So we will come back in June and July with refined numbers and a resolution of support.
I just wanted to answer Ms. Henley's question. So we looked it up. It looks like the number 1 intersection is Indian River and Centerville, which is obviously being addressed by the Centerville 2 project.
Yep, so it's just down the street from the Interville intersections, right over here. So Indian River, Centerville is the most number 1 congested intersection.
Indian River and Centerville?
Mm-hmm. And that is being addressed with the Centerville Turnpike Phase 2 project, which is going to construction in the next year or 2, I believe. Perfect. Well, I appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, moving on to council liaison reports. Anybody got one? Yeah, Mr. Moss.
I attended the Virginia Beach Community Development Corporation meeting. That went very well. Like many people, I'm sure private renters, they have a number of people who are still in arrears and paying, but they have agreements, or they've qualified and said they qualify for relief under this central pool of money that's available at the state level. But because the state or whoever the agency they're using to clear those, they must have come from the Unemployment Commission contract, but they are way behind. And so CDC, like a lot of people who rent apartments, are not able to successfully, rightfully so, to get evictions from the judges because these people have qualified to get rent relief, but the rent relief is lagging by months, sometimes 4 and 5 months. So I'm just sharing that with you. You might run into people who rent smaller apartment complexes, but they are facing that cash flow. Meanwhile, the mortgage companies still want to get paid. So that is, so they're running a little bit of a operating deficit at the moment. If you took it out to the end, but they do anticipate ultimately those monies coming from the state. But a lot of people are having to pay before they get paid. I just thought I'd share that with you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Belushi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I just want to report that Councilmember Wooten and I attended last week the first 2 meetings of the May 31st Memorial Committee. And I'll let Councilmember Wooten describe her experiences with the group, but I'll be happy to share mine, which is that it made me very proud to be among such a dedicated, caring, kind, compassionate group of people who love our city and love the people of our city and are working together to pay a respectful and appropriate memorial to the people who lost their lives on May 31st, as well to pay tribute to the people who were impacted by the events of that day and continue to remain impacted. I want to thank you, Mayor, for coming by. I know that the members of the committee appreciated it. It's a collaborative effort between consultants who have experience working in creating memorials of this type. Tragically, there's actually a niche for this. City staff, and Mr. Duhaney, I want to compliment all the members of your team who were there to support the efforts of this committee, and as well the members of the committee who who are comprise all different folks who have various levels of being impacted by the events of that day, from family members, co-workers, city staff, list goes on and on, just incredible people. And what I think characterized the discussions were that people were really honest with each other. They made themselves vulnerable. They told the truth about their experiences and their feelings. And I know that that will continue to characterize the work that happens at the committee, which we know is incredibly important and even overdue. So, but with time comes greater perspective that we can contemplate even the scope and impact of this project even further and deliver, hopefully, an even better project. So I just want to say how much I appreciate the honor to be part of this effort, and thank Councilmember Wooten for all the contributions that she made, and if it's appropriate with, if it's okay with you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to hear from her.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Berlucci. The only thing I would say or add to what's already been said, just a very humbling experience to be in the presence of, so many individuals, whether they were members of the victim family, victims, community leaders, volunteers, staff, and just people who just genuinely cared. You never know what quite to expect in a setting of that magnitude, but just to be in the presence, to listen to the stories, quite frankly, just a process was just very a healing process. I remember just sitting there, just listening, and hearing from some of the individuals who said, I want to tell my story. I want to tell the story, and how therapeutic it was to share and to tell their story. And so, again, I just feel blessed and humbled to be a part of it. And really what comes to mind when we, the VB Strong theme, you actually really see that theme in action. It's not just a title or a nice saying. You actually, as you sit there and you become a part of that process, you see and you feel that whole VB Strong really coming together and feeling a part of that this is a strong community that went through a horrific, tragic occasion, but out of that will come something good, healing process. And so just looking forward to more sessions and in great expectation of what will become of those meetings. And again, thank you to the mayor and Councilmember Berlucci and the staff. Of course, always perform phenomenally. Appreciate your support and all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berlucci.
Mr. Mayor, and I want to thank Councilmember Wooten. I forgot one of the most important parts of the report, which is that Councilmember Wooten and I are going to bring forward an ordinance next week at the next voting meeting on March 15th that will do two things. The first thing is that it will change the change the composition by adding one member, and it will also remove the requirement for a chair and vice chair. The committee has a very strong and solid facilitator, and the committee felt that they wouldn't need to be electing a chair and vice chair. So happy to answer any questions that anyone may have about those things, and appreciate your consideration of our request on the next voting meeting. Thank you.
And if I could thank council members Wooten and Berlucci for taking this on. It was indeed humbling just to watch what went on for a while and listen to a remarkable group of people that were assembled. And I think one of the frustrating things, it took a couple of years to get this thing going, somewhat COVID and everything, but I think a lot of the standard, it takes a couple of years for, things to kind of settle in. So this can, happen in a way. But, be assured that May 31st, was the darkest day in the history of Virginia Beach. And we are resolved to continue in perpetuity the remembrance of the victims and also the continued care for the many, many people that were in the room. I remember speaking to a mayor of Orlando, and he said, he had no idea that, the surviving members that witnessed, this horrible event, will go through, PTSD and other considerations. But once again, I'm confident that this city, through your actions, will continue in perpetuity to let folks know that they have a government and just 460,000 people in this great city that are still engaged with that. So I do thank you. Hey, anyone else? Okay, moving on to council comments. If I can, start off real quick with a point of personal privilege. Over the weekend, I got contacted by somebody in Ocean Park, and I think some of you also may have been contacted. And basically, it was a request. As we know, the world stage right now is chaotic, especially with the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. And a request was made that if we can put blue and yellow lights on the Lesnar Bridge. And so if it's okay, I will bring forward a resolution that hopefully we can do an add-on. But hopefully, this is going to be not a request by me or any other individual, but a request by City Council going forward. And if it's okay, I would just like to take a minute to read it now and then, have some discussion now. But certainly, when we talk about it, a possibility of an add-on for this tonight. A resolution supporting the people of the Ukraine. Whereas following the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Ukrainian people voted overwhelmingly to form a nation independent from Russia. Whereas in the years that followed, Ukraine has been a bulwark against Russian military aggression in Europe. Whereas Russian President Vladimir Putin has launched a large-scale, unjust, and unwarranted invasion of the Ukraine in violation of international peace and security agreements. And whereas the Ukrainian people are courageously fighting to defend their country against the brutality of this violent war, which is an effort to both international law and common decency. Whereas the city of Virginia Beach stands in solidarity with the people of the Ukraine, and the city council desires to express the city's support for the Ukrainians. Whereas the Lesnar Bridge is a city landmark, a most prominent bridge in the city, crossing the Lynnhaven Inlet at the mouth of Chesapeake Bay. Now there be resolved by the City Council of the City of Virginia Beach that the City of Virginia Beach strongly supports and proudly stands with the Ukrainian people and its leaders during this illegal, immoral, and unwarranted invasion of their country, and that the city manager be directed to illuminate the Lesnar Bridge in blue and yellow colors by the Ukrainian flag as a symbol of the support. And and if we do get this through today, if we can make it effective as of today going forward, just saying that, this kind of hits home to me in a very big way. My grandparents, both my mom's parents, came from the Ukraine through Ellis Island. And I was brought up in a very strong Ukrainian heritage. And, this does have, it's impacting the world. And, maybe some folks may see this as not a great effort, but it shows the tenacity and resolve of the people of Virginia Beach and what we are about. And, you know, I always say, and then we always say, the strength of Virginia Beach are the people of Virginia Beach. And we, you know, stand with the righteous. So with the permission, when we do the consent agenda, I will be hand the gavel over and make a formal request that this be had. Okay. Any questions or concerns? Okay, thank you. Anybody else have council comments?
I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
In light of the newspaper arrangement and result and the final results of Mr. Warren Harris' conviction of a felony and how he was going to pay his bill, I'm sure I'm not the only one who got lots of comments from the public. Clearly, in his case, we can't retroactively correct that, but we can, and I've asked the city attorney to staff to draft an ordinance which would require someone who is convicted of a felony of that nature, which would qualify in the job performance of money, that their property rights to annual leave would be forfeited by policy. And I don't think that's overly harsh. I think that's what happens in probably most places. But I just want to let you know that I have asked that to be constructed and be, when it's available, be sending that out. And maybe at the appropriate time, people want to think about that, get your own conversations. But that is my response on that particular issue based on what I've heard back from the public about they found that quite insulting, and why does that happen? So I just want to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, Ms. Wooten.
My comment is more so towards the Hampton Roads Alliance. And I'm trying to gather some details and information as to what has transpired that has initiated and prompted phone calls and emails about the position that this body has taken for the Alliance. And I'd like to kind of get some clarity on it because I'm getting phone calls, and I'm sure many of my colleagues are as well, about supporting it in the budget. And something that probably should have come up prior to now, especially a consideration in our budget discussions. I'd like to see a presentation. I'd like to see where we are and to find out, you know, what this body's thought is on it. And I'd like to have some of the details to be able to intelligently address some of the conversation that I'm being asked questions about in telephone calls. And so just want to make sure that we have that presentation and like to some more clarity on it.
And Ms. Wooten, if it's okay, I will give you just a little bit of a background on it. The manager and I, and, you know, I represent the council on this. And once again, you know, it's a cost of, you know, $550,000, Mr. Dehaney, to us. And, you know, but once again, you know, trust me, I have received a number of phone calls also, including discussions with the other mayors and asking for, and this is hopefully the direction we may go and discuss as a body, is, you know, to, you know, give them an extension with provisions that, you know, there's more clarity brought to us, more objectives, and maybe some, as Mr. Moss says, metrics that define, you know, success. You know, certainly we want to be, you know, play very well with the rest of the region. You know, yesterday I did a mayor's forum, you know, with the Wave Church at the Westin. And it was myself, Mayor Alexander, Mayor West, and Shannon Glover from thing. And, you know, we want to be a regional player. But once again, you know, as we, you know, go forward, you know, we have to hold the organizations, especially the ones we give some extremely a lot of money to, at least accountable. And so, you know, the request was made of me that we at least consider another year of, some, maybe with some modifications and suggestions, going forward. But certainly the council will be engaged in this. It's going to be an item that'll be brought forward, during the budget considerations. But, I think it was just a matter of, that's very, it costs us a lot of money to belong to that. And we just want to make sure we're getting the bang for the buck. And I think we can do, we can work things out to a win-win. Yeah, Mr. Moss.
When I got the manager's memo, my take of it was just that it was an item he was letting us know that was going to be teed up in the budget process. I didn't get any decision was being made there, but I do recall when we went through this exercise once before about we weren't getting a return on our investment. They redid their organization agreement. I know the number of people were here when that happened, not everyone, but a lot of us were here, and we were going to see this change. Well, we didn't really see any change. We just saw expenditures, but we didn't see any change. So I hope when we do bring this back, we won't lose that history of that we went through this, I'll call it come to Jesus moment, and you got an extension. This would be yet another extension, and past performance is the best of future performance. So clearly there's going to need to be more granularity in, Mr. Mayor, on what those expectations are, and maybe some more frequent reporting than annually. But when people think their check's getting cut off, they're always attentive and put together lots of material. But, I think I'm just laying it out there. You were there, Mr. Mayor, we went through this whole thing once before, and I just haven't forgotten that. So something has to come to the table new than before. And I do appreciate the city manager. I know that doesn't come easy when you have to live with these people in the community to come out and call it like you see it and bring those issues to our attention for a choice. I thank him for that, and I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership in getting it put together, and Ms. Wooten for bringing it up. But I just want to let you know, I didn't take that as a decision had been made, but that it was a decision we were going to get a chance to make and to discuss, and he wasn't going to make it for us. That's what I took from his memo.
And Ms. Wooten, I really want to thank you for bringing it up, for discussion. But I think what prompted the thing was, Mr. Dehaney notified them that, about the possibility ahead of time. At the last meeting that this, at least might be on the table. It was a courtesy that they wouldn't be blindsided.
Okay.
But once again, both the manager and I are very much aware and appreciate the fact that we as a body make these decisions. They're not made unilaterally. And there will be robust discussions.
And I just want to say just one more comment in terms of the information I received in letter comments was that as if a decision had been made and characterized this body as doing something and the manager as perpetuating a certain position on behalf of this body, which I did not know to be true. Therefore, I sent out a message and a note of clarification, and still trying to get that information to clarify so that I know how to respond to those who have characterized your decision or your comment and have made reference to this body as making decisions based on the alliance, which I know we have not done or talked about or made decisions. So that's where my comments are coming from.
Mr. Rouse, if I can have Mr. Dehaney respond.
Yeah, to Councilmember Wooten, Mr. Moss clarified it pretty succinctly, but basically, the Alliance's contract is coming up for expiration on, I think, June 30th of this year. I notified council in a Friday package several weeks ago that as their contract is coming up for expiration, in reviewing the contract and the metrics in the contracts, it doesn't appear that they've met all doesn't appear that their return to investment has been all that we thought it would have been. And I've offered to council that, considering that we need to have a conversation with the council as we go a part of the current budget process. So basically, while we go through the budget process, if this is a matter that council wants to take up for discussion before the contract expires, or to renew the contract, or to change the terms of the contract in any kind of shape or form, I'm looking for additional guidance and feedback from the council on how best to proceed with next steps on the alliance.
And thank you for that clarity. I did not have that clarity, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, and I think it may be a good idea that we facilitate a discussion. Mr. Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to speak to the city manager, and in my time working with him since he's been here, I haven't seen the city manager get ahead of this council, even when he had the authority to act on, make certain decisions. I've seen he has always brought those decisions back to council and get our input in our direction. And so my understanding of that basically was of that letter that we received from the city manager about the Hampton Roads Alliance was one that we need to discuss around budget time, as any item, and particularly one that where we are spending a large portion of funds into. And so, again, that's, I think Mr. Mawson, the city manager, in his own words, spoke to that. But I just wanted to commend the city manager for, he has the authority to act on as he will to make these decisions, but he has always acted in our best interest by putting the decision before council and have us robust discussion. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Rouse.
And just to say, by no means do my comments at all try to set forth that Mr. Duhaney would try to get beyond or ahead of the body. Again, my comments are in clarification. As I clearly stated previously, the comments were made in letter form to me about allegations about what was done and about this body. And as I mentioned, I knew them not to be true, therefore, I get clarity. That's the reason for my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other item? Yeah, if I could ask, once again, the dynamic duo of Council Lady Wooten and Mr. Bellucci. We had the opportunity Sunday to go to a play at the Zyder. And it was a tribute to Black History Month, but it was also a very, I think, poignant message, concerning mental health. Would either one of you like to comment on the play and its impact?
Sure. I'd heard quite a bit about the play Your Life Matters, and certainly the title is very poignant. It really highlighted mental health, the mental health crisis that we have in our country. Also highlighted just, how everyday people can consider, and I'm sure these last few years in the pandemic, a sense of overwhelmingness, and sometimes there are thoughts that may come to your mind, or decisions, and it just gave you a really, it was an eye-opener to see how someone can have those thoughts and what decisions they could or could not make, dependent upon their mental health and depression. And so the way that the play was directed, it was impromptu. There was music, songs that were sang, and just a really, I would say, transparent conversation just about how people feel when they experience depression. A lot of real, truthful testimonies about people going through the loss of their family members, about their family members committing suicide. And so it was, again, one of those very emotional but important subjects to kind of really to broach and to think about. It was very thought-provoking, and I'm glad that, received an invitation and that there was a venue provided for such a very important and a very pertinent conversation in terms of mental health, suicide, and depression.
Thank you. Mr. Bellucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not much more I could add to what Councilmember Wooten said, other than I would just simply say that we've discussed mental health a lot around in this body, and it remains one of the most important issues that our country and certainly our city faces. Mental illness impacts every single family, and this program that I really want to give you a lot of credit for supporting, Mayor, and for lifting up and for helping to make sure that received the attention and support from the city that it deserved, was one that spoke about the impact that mental health has on families, particularly focusing on some of the challenges that exist within minority communities, underserved constituencies. It's incredibly important that we acknowledge mental health, mental illness, and remove the stigma that's associated with it by talking about it. And I think that was an important piece of the program that we saw. And the organizers, Mr. McIntyre and the entire My Life Matters musical team, deserve applause and credit. And Venus Marshall, who helped to promote the show and make sure that it reached Virginia Beach audiences, deserves a lot of credit. And the city of Virginia Beach does too, for being part of the program and for sponsoring it. And on a personal note, I would just say that I lost two people I knew pretty well just last week. One who died by suicide, and another person who struggled with mental health most of their lives, if not all their lives. It's been a pretty difficult week, and that program helped me to process some of that. It also came at a crucial moment because we need to talk about these issues so that we don't lose more people. 2 people in 1 week who suffer from mental health. Mental health is enough, and we need to raise awareness about this issue, and that's exactly what that program did, and I want to thank you for supporting it, Mayor.
And if I could just say this in terms of what we're doing as a city, to address this. It's out there, and let's face it, the COVID really exacerbated all the problems. We have seen the increased anxiety, the depression, suicides, drug, alcohol abuse, domestic abuse. But it was present even before the COVID hit us. And, the IDEA Commission that we put forward, hit a couple snags with the COVID, and then unfortunately I had to take a month off, okay? But now we're reconstituting. But let me say this, we put together 2 focus group meetings of 27 of the most eclectic people that represented the wonderful mosaic we had in the city to discuss what we want to cover in terms of inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. The number one issue by far was mental health, getting mental health into the families, getting mental health of people that are incarcerated, and, a major focal point of, dealing with everything from youth violence to everything, it, is going to require, some of this intervention as a priority. So I just wanted to thank, once again, the 2 council members for highlighting, the importance of this type of thing. But we have to keep the message going. And I think that's, of paramount, importance that we as a city, whether it be lobbying Richmond or federal agencies or providing programs, I think we're on the way to doing that, but boy, we got a long way to go. Thank you very much. Anybody else for council comments? Mr. Designated Vice Mayor, would you kindly, do the consent agenda
We're gonna
first.
need a new business card there, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Jones.
We call him Vice Mayor Emeritus.
There you go.
Okay, first, I'm assuming, based on the comments and reaction, that everybody's in favor of adding the resolution supporting the people of Ukraine. Anybody object to that? All right.
Okay, thank you all.
We have to vote. Do we have
And
to vote?
this is a council initiative.
Have to
the
vote on
entire
that,
council.
and I'll make a motion for that at the beginning of the formal session.
Great, thank you.
Under ordinances and resolutions, item 1, ordinance to amend City Code Section 10-1, rate polling place changes. Everybody okay with that? Okay. Item 2, resolution to amend Chapter 8 of the Public Works Design Standards Manual, raise stormwater management. Item was adopted February 1, 22.
We have speakers on that, sir.
We got 3 speakers on that.
Speakers.
And I have asked specifically that the staff respond specifically to the written comments we all received from Mr. Martin. So I don't know if we can have that during council discussion or preceding the public input. I have no preference, but I did specifically ask.
It might be appropriate with the, the public comments. That way we can have some back and forth.
We'll pull it.
It's pulled.
Item 3, resolution to rename the Citizen Oversight Board to Flood Prevention Bond Referendum Oversight Board and set forth the requirements of certain members requested by council members Henley and Moss. Everybody okay? 4, ordinance to amend the calendar year 2022 tax levy on personal property, machinery, and tools, rate taxpayer dividend, and to provide revenue offsets requested by Councilmember Moss. Is there going to be a discussion on that?
Is a discussion. I'm asking to defer. Obviously, I got that memo that we all got on Friday. I wasn't able to get with Kevin and company till this morning. I do have a table I want to show that kind of, I think, highlights the 2 choices that memo represents. But I also think it would be helpful, which we did not receive, is for us to be able to see scenarios of different car values and what the bill would be before and after under both of the options under which this could be implemented. And I have a table to show. I would like to discuss that, but I am asking it to be deferred.
That would be good.
March
We also have
15th, which is
speakers.
the last date we can act, and the Commissioner of Revenue can still get his algorithm adjusted.
You say we do have.
We do have speakers on that.
Well, I just want to share
Okay.
that with you.
But, thank you, John. Appreciate that.
So, just so I understand, we're going to have a discussion tonight, but we're going to defer the vote till the 15th.
15th, because I think the council really needs to see examples of different car evaluations under the different options, which is one is fair market value and one is just adjusting the tax bill itself like the state does. And they both have advantages and disadvantages, which I have built into a table, which I've covered with the staff and the city attorney as to their accuracy. And I'm sure the city manager would have some comments as well.
Item
Thank you.
5, ordinance to amend City Code Sections 5-531, 21-303, 23-7.1, 23-7.5, and repeal 27.7. Repeal Section 21-221, rate law enforcement officers requested by the Sheriff's Office, deferred from January 4th, 2022. Sheriff Office requests indefinite deferral. Anybody object to indefinite deferral? All right, item 6, ordinance to authorize the acquisition of property in fee simple and acquisition of temporary and permanent easements, either by agreement or condemnation, Ray Salem Woods Sidewalk Improvements, CIP 100423-.026, formerly CIP number 1, paragraph 2-113, .026. Everybody okay? Item 7, ordinance to authorize temporary encroachments into portion of city-owned property known as Treasure Canal and 5-foot drainage and utility easement at the rear of 2217 Leeward Shore Drive. Reconstruct and maintain vinyl bulkhead, return and boat lift, District 8, formerly District 5, Lynn Haven. Everybody okay? Ordinance 8, item 8, ordinance to accept a donation of one medical rapid access transport off-road ambulance from the Hampton Roads Metropolitan Medical Response System, reused by emergency medical services. Everybody okay? Item 9, ordinance to appropriate $393 from the Fire Department gift fund to fiscal year 2021-22 Fire Department operating budget, purchase of gas grills for 7 fire stations. Everybody okay? Ordinance 10, ordinance to accept and appropriate $18,452 from the Federal Emergency Management Agency to the fiscal year 2021-22 Fire Department operating budget rate related to the mobilization of Virginia Task Force 2 to Murray, Kentucky for tornado response, okay? Item B, from Virginia, $329,000 from Virginia Department of Education to fiscal year 2021-22 Parks and Recreation operating budget, raise support child care programs at Princess Anne, Bow Creek, Kempsville, and Williams Farm Recreation Center. Everybody okay? Item C, $138,416 from Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Development Services, fiscal year 2021-22 Human Services operating budget, Ray Infant Program. Everybody okay?
And open a public hearing on planning.
Under planning, item 1, which is Pups and Pence LLC, Navy Federal Credit Union, for a conditional use permit, Ray Craft Brewery at 2413 London Bridge Road, District 5, formerly District 7, Princess Ave. Ms. Henley.
I'm sure there'll probably be speakers.
Speakers.
There are none signed up at this time.
Well, it's probably good to have it presented anyway. It's just to make sure we've got all the conditions in order.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We'll pull
Item
that one.
2, Anderton Enterprises, Inc., Clemson JBS LLC for conditional use permit, Ray Automobile Repair Garage at 4912 Rutherford Road, Suite 104, District 9, formerly District 4, Bayside. Do we have any speakers on that?
No, sir, not yet.
Okay, I'm okay with it. I went by there to look at it.
So did I.
Yeah.
See the big issue.
Okay. Item 3, Ralph Bryan Sloop for a conditional use permit, Ray short-term rental at 313 15th Street, District 5, formerly District 6, Beach District. Mr. Tower?
I have no objections to it being on the consent agenda.
Item 4, Todd Swigert for a conditional use permit, Ray short-term rental at 505 19th Street, District 6, formerly District 6, Beach. Mr. Tower?
Again, I'm fine with it being on consent.
And item 5, Suzanne Ling for a conditional use permit, Ray short-term rental at 4005 Atlantic Avenue, Unit 114, District 6, formerly District 6, Beach Unit.
Do we have any speakers on this?
No, sir, not yet.
I'm okay with consent.
Okey-dokey, thank you, sir. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to recess into a closed session pursuant to the exemptions from open meetings allowed by Section 2.2 3711A Code of Virginia as amended for the following purposes. Number 1, public held property. discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for public purpose or of the disposition of publicly held property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position of the negotiation strategy of the public body pursuant to Section 2.2, 3711A3. And we have 6 items, the first 3 in District 6, first 4 in District 6, and then the District 5 and District 4. Personnel matters, discussions, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of the specific officers, appointees, or employees of any public body pursuant to the Section 2.23711A2, and that would be council appointments, council boards, commissions, committees, authorities, agencies, and appointees. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. The vote is open.
Nine to 0, you have recessed into closed session.
Okay, we recess into executive. Thank you.